Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Medical Mindset Coach podcast. I am your host, Star Freudenberg, and I am officially back on the scene, coming back to record. It's just been a little bit of one of those things when you sort of get your eye off the ball, you say you're going to do it, and then all of a sudden time flies, you're on holiday, you're studying, you're working, life gets the best of you, and then you think, oh gosh, okay. Right, I got to get back on it. So officially starting today. So as I've made many promises in the recent podcasts that what I'm going to start doing is recording the various services behind what I do. So if anyone doesn't know about it, don't understand what it is, what it encompasses, these various podcast episodes that are going to come out are going to be explaining this going forward. So it can really give you a full comprehensive idea of what to expect, or maybe actually something you might think might be beneficial for you. All right. So today what I'm going to be recording is talking about colonic hydrotherapy, or commonly known as colonic irrigation. What I find really weird, and I say this to literally everyone that walks in my clinic door, is that, I basically say, it's very strange that one of the things that every single human being on this earth does is poo. And yet it is the most taboo, shy, don't talk about it, don't bring it up kind of topics. And that's like, in my head, very confusing, because you'd think if it's something that everyone does, everyone should have knowledge about, everyone should be aware, what is wrong with what you're doing. Yet it's all this, don't talk about it, let's pretend it doesn't exist. People don't fart, girls don't fart, they blow roses is one of the things that I was raised to believe, And it's really strange for me, because it's like, well, even when people go, oh, what do you do? And I say one of the main modalities that I offer is colonic hydrotherapy. There's just this instant shutdown, or like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, or well, that's disgusting, or like, why would you deal with that? And actually, it's very interesting for me, very interesting. And one of the most common feedbacks I get is, you're really excited about this, or like you really seem to enjoy the subject. And I do. I really do. And the reason why, which most people don't seem to understand, is 90% of disease and illness starts from the gut, right? So the first place I work with everyone in order to get them back into balance, into a state of maintenance, getting them away from disease or illness, or, any type of place where it could end up becoming fatal, or just getting back better quality of life, better energy. And that will always start as a foundation. Even when I do packages, colonic is always in there. And the reason why is colonic is very profound. It's a very natural treatment in the sense that it's just using water, and it will achieve many things. But the three most dominant things that I say that it achieves is 1, hydration, 2, removal of waste product. And I'm talking, that doesn't just mean feces. That can be mucus, that can be inflammation, can be parasites, can be undigested food. There's so many different things that can come out of you. And I always make the joke that makes my job interesting, because it keeps me on my toes, because then I can stay aware rather than just having the same recurring expected thing. And then the third thing is liver detoxification. So when we go back to the first one, hydration, right? I explain to everyone that I think we're very chronically dehydrated as a nation, as a race, as a species. Why? Because water these days, most people drink tap water, and I really emphasize about do not drink tap water. It's really bad. It's full of a lot of chemicals, a lot of waste things that people, for example, factories getting rid of fluoride, they put in the water. It gets contaminated with what people flush down the toilet. And I will always use this analogy, because once you hear it, you can't unthink it. And that is how I know I'm teaching across principles that are very effective. Is the first thing I say to you is, think about what you have done in a toilet over your whole life, right? You know, obviously going to pee, going to poo, common, right? Women menstruate, right? If you have children, you know, what things you've had to flush down when they're babies, you know, stuff from their diapers, menstruation, vomiting from alcohol, vomiting from, you know, stomach or food, from food poisoning that's obviously upset your stomach, you know, diarrhea, people, for example, flushing down medications, people flushing down drugs, you know, maybe if they had excess, or maybe they're just saying, oh, I'm going to quit, you know, from having some forms of levels of addiction. People flushing down other weird things, people flush down food, you know, maybe oils that they don't want to flush down their drains. So the water itself is quite contaminated, and that's just talking from a human perspective. And then you think about, what do factories do? What do, you know, maybe there's oil spillages. There's just so many things that are effectively polluting the water. And then I think, okay, you wouldn't drink that water. No, right? Then step 2 is, what kind of processes are the governments going through to try and sterilize as much as possible that water to make it semi-drinkable? And, you know, there will be definitely, as you will know, or most people know, around the world, there are just some places you cannot drink water. The only one that's coming up in my mind is like Egypt or Mexico. So you'll drink bottled water, right? So then you think, okay, so now 1, people/companies contaminate water. 2, what chemicals are being put in the water to strip it out in order to make it semi-drinkable/drinkable again. And then you're just effectively ingesting that to a point that, you know, you're slowly poisoning yourself effectively. There's even, I forgot the exact statistic, but when I traveled to America, there was something that I read, an article that I read that says that the water there is actually laced with antipsychotics, a lot of mind medicine, if you will, because people will think, who might have certain mental health conditions, you know, maybe like most common is bipolar, they go, oh, I don't need to take these. They flush it down the toilet. And obviously, if you see in America, a lot of people, it's just sort of the prescription continent, you know. If you just complain about something very minor, you get a drug for it. So to a point now, actually, if you had to go there for a prolonged period of time and drink the certain water, obviously from different counties or different states, you may effectively become slightly, I'm going to say, dosed or drugged with those contaminants. So it's very, very interesting. So I'm always like, I'd rather pay £1 or £2 for water, because if I had to project that over my life, I know that I'm buying myself some more time. And this is the thing that I'm very, very interested in explaining to people, is that, okay, people are not very aware about how much life they have ahead of them, you know, whether it's 20 years, 30 years, depending on your age at the moment. But also on top of that, the quality of your life, you know. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to get old, yeah. But do you want to be middle-aged and have a really poor quality of life? So you really have to start thinking at this moment, every decision I make today, how will that affect me or the 30-year future self, you know, or the 20 years or the 10 years, you know? And a common example is a lot of people who abuse drugs, and I'm going to go with heroin because that's the most very graphically portrayed one when you see the photos of how they look in, you know, 10 years, 20 years of just abusing the substance. They think, you know, in the first 5 years that they're doing it, like, look, people say I'm going to look this way or this is going to look bad, but I'm fine. I will continue doing it. It doesn't affect me. And then you'll see in 5-10 years time or 20 years time, you know, how they look very emaciated, how the veins collapse and like literally the veins look black. You know, how there's a poor quality of life and how the mind becomes quite affected because obviously the neural pathways are broken down. There's a lot of damage caused to the tissues. Therefore, the thinking and the behaviors and everything start to change. And then reciprocally, then the mind can't communicate effectively to the body. The nervous system is affected. and therefore has a negative result. So it's very, very interesting, all of these things, right? So going back to that, the most important critical thing that we can all do if we just want to improve our health is just have really, really good quality of water. So get a filtration system. Some people just might have a separate filter on the side like I do, which I'll change every 6 months. Or you might have if you have that kind of home, you can have something installed in your kitchen. Or there's just manners. Maybe you have to buy bottled water, but try be sensible how you can make it cost effective and practical, whilst, and I use this emphasis on this word, investing in your health, right? People will always think, well, if I can buy organic chicken, and I'm just being extreme, at 10 quid, but I can get it in a cheaper shop for £3, I'm going to go for the £3. But how is that chicken? Is that really chicken? Like, what kind of hormones, what kind of processes are they going through? What makes the difference? Of that £7 in this example, like, why is it different? And you should rather think about that in that state than anything else. So interestingly, going back to the water analogy now, or the water example, is a lot of people's health significantly improve when you have good quality of water. And the reason why is because we are made approximately, every estimate in various books will say, but approximately 70% of water. So when we get effective, high quality water hydrating our bodies, this is where everything changes, right? Then the mind and the body function much better. So I always equate the body as a vehicle. And if we keep putting in the right fuel, which water is predominantly the main source, of course the engine is going to run better. Of course the vehicle is going to run better. Of course the output of things are going to significantly improve and enhance, right? So that's why. And another thing that people also go, well, most common thing is, okay, well, I'm drinking a lot of water, but I'm not seeing the benefits of it. One, okay, maybe you're not absorbing the water, and that will link to malabsorption issues, not digesting things well, or just being seriously backed up, right? A lot of people don't know, but you might have feces stuck in your stomach, and that rots. And that rotting is almost like a brewery factory where things are fermenting and a lot of gas is being created. And that really significantly pulls your body down, your energy down, your processes down, your detoxing down. And therefore your body's stealing a lot more water, because that's the primary function that it needs in order to detox is water. And that's why you'll always hear with, you do massage or any treatments, please drink water, because it's going to help flush out the toxins. So if you already have this brewery of toxins building up in your system, of course your body's going to cry a hell of a lot more. And then things are slowing down, things becoming more sluggish, and therefore you can't absorb a lot more because there's a lot of blockage, a lot of buildup, which comes to our second step as to what the second thing in Colonic does is removal of waste product. So very interesting fact is that we can keep stuff in our stomachs or gut or / large intestine up to 10 years. We're not talking huge sausages or, massive things. Which actually it can be, but it can even be small particles, even like equivalent like to the size of a grain of rice, but that can have such significant influence, and that can get stuck and really, really bring issues into the body. And, the most common one I would say is bloating or brain fog. And that will bring me to just give you a couple of examples of what benefits you can achieve with Colonic, right? Or the symptoms that can help alleviate, right? Feeling frequently tired, maybe having dips of energy throughout the day, brain fog, inability to focus, feelings of depression, anxiety, worry, being overweight or having trouble losing weight, having headaches, trouble to sleep, sexual dysfunction / low libido, hormonal imbalances, mood swings, unexplained soreness or stiffness in the body, skin problems such as breakouts, allergic reactions, rashes, itchy skin, gas, bloating, distended abdomen, abdominal cramps, constipation, diarrhea, difficult menstrual cycles, menopausal symptoms, not feeling full after eating, having these intense cravings, especially towards sugar, having digestion issues. You can, for example, even things such as acid reflux or GERD, burping a lot, equally farting a lot, inflammation, having joint pain or arthritic sort of symptoms or arthritis, poor circulation, feeling cold, especially in the extremities of your body, a weak immune system. So that would lend you to always like feeling cold, always catching a cold or flu-like symptoms, or feeling lethargic / sluggish, right? Struggling to wake up, that kind of thing. Infrequent bowel movements, right? So most people don't know how often to go a day, right? The ideal, it would be 2, right? So if you're going once, you're more on the constipated profile. If you're going more than twice, then you're on the diarrhea profile, right? Another one would be like you can't shift excess weight, feeling overweight, bad breath. And another common one is respiratory conditions or breathing difficulties. So, and this is non-exhaustive, so there's still a hell of a lot more, but these are the ones that I could come up with in this moment. So it's quite powerful that a couple of colonics can actually achieve that and clean that out, right? So we need to get over that idea of like, oh, sounds like a really scary, weird, invasive treatment, but it's actually not. And then coming to the third point is liver detox as well, right? So if we can get hydrated, then we can remove out all the waste buildup in our body. Then we can also detox from our liver. And the liver is, I would say, the most superior organ of the body. It's about an average like 1.4 kilograms. So it's like a big piece of steak kind of sitting there on the right-hand side, partially under the rib cage of the body. So if you ever have pain there, that is potentially a reason. Maybe it's your liver. And I always equate the liver to being like a sponge with holes in it. So we need the liver as the absorbent organ that will hold on and absorb all the toxins of the body. And then at various times of the day when it's like, okay, we need to flush out these toxins, it's going to call on its married or partnered organ called the gallbladder, which stores this yellow liquid called bile, right? And that bile will basically, in effect, I always explain it like a money bag with liquid gold inside. Then the liver calls on the gallbladder to like, hey, I want to release some toxins. And then it will basically release this gold liquid through the liver, through the holes, and then carry that out through defecation or going to the toilet, doing a number 2. Yeah. Problem is, and this is just an exaggerated number, if we have like 100 holes in our sponge, over time, these holes become blocked up. Can be for various reasons. Not hydrated enough, maybe excess toxins. Maybe you might have a sluggish liver due to genetics, or maybe you had a liver disease, this kind of thing, various reasons. And liver is also a predominant function dealing with blood. So there could be various reasons why these things might get stuck. So I explained that maybe out of your 100 holes, maybe 30 to, maybe exaggerated 50 get blocked up. So now when the liver calls on the gallbladder to try and flush out toxins, now these old toxins are blocked in these holes, and then only like 50% is actually excreting out. Then you think, okay, this is why as you age, you feel more sluggish, more slow. You can't handle alcohol as well. You can't eat oily, greasy food as you used to do, etc. And people just equate it to getting old. It's like, it's just one of the things, I'm just getting old. No, it's just because you haven't looked after your body and you don't have the right tools. But the colonic will be able to help achieve flushing that out. But it does take a few sessions. And of course, I always work on a case-by-case basis as to why or as to how many sessions a person will require. All right. So as mentioned, all of the different symptoms, this is what we can significantly improve. And that's just through one modality. And of course, when you come to the clinic and I explain to you, okay, you'll probably really benefit from doing this, maybe some vitamin injections, maybe doing a nutrition plan, maybe it's doing a weight loss management accountability program, maybe it's doing blood tests, which are always well paired together. And then I will make sort of a customized program that I think would benefit the person that comes. But now explaining the three main benefits that are derived from the colonic, which I said is hydration, removal of waste product or matter, and then obviously liver detoxification. And these are the three main things that are going to get you to really, really powerful health. I always say that I like people to come at a minimum of 3 times within a 6-week period because the body is chronically dehydrated. And the first session that we will achieve with colonic is just hydrating the colon and loosening up all of those dehydrated, old, stuck stools that are basically effectively being your brewery factory rotting in your stomach. And again, the best analogy is to think about putting a piece of steak in a plastic bag and leaving it in the sun for like a month. It's disgusting inside. You don't know, right? Because we don't really have the tools to check under the hood. And still to this day, I don't know any other modality for being able to do an internal cleanse that is as effective as a colonic. So as part of every package I do with someone, colonic will always be the foundational modality parts of the package, really, because it's that powerful. So there's some interesting science behind, how the brain has always been seen as the brain, but now there's this, new research that has come out talking about like, the second brain is the stomach, the gut, but what I've come to learn and believe is that actually the first brain is the stomach or the gut, right? Shouldn't say stomach because the gut is more encompassing, but the gut is actually the first brain. It's the powerhouse of dictating your hormones, your moods, your energy levels, circulation in the body. And as I said at the beginning of this episode, is that it dictates about 90% of why illness and disease occur. So if you get on top of your gut health, then you should definitely have a great quality of life, right? But a lot of people don't know this to a point because they get a little bit afraid about what a colonic appears to be, but it's actually a lot more normal. And literally 90% of the time, or I'll even go higher, 95% of the time to 97% of the time, people go, when I start the treatment, oh, is that it? And I always make the joke that our imagination is far superior to the reality of things. We can really play out some weird scenarios, and then when the real thing happens, you're just like, oh, okay, that was a lot, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, or it wasn't as intense as I was expecting it to be, those kind of things. And you can just apply that across all, even doing a speech on stage, that kind of thing. But what is a colonic? So a colonic is, as I explained, a gentle, invasive treatment, but it's not invasive intensively. It's a very small tube that will be inserted in the anus, where you'll have 2 pipes attached, where one will be bringing in water 24/7, and one will be releasing out waste product, which you can watch, which I always highly recommend because it's good to see what you've been holding in your body. And this can be seen as quite like I'm going to use the word ritual, because you can see sort of the relationship that you've developed with the body. Like, what are you letting go of now? Like, what have you been holding on to for some time? What is no longer serving you? And this is all this buildup that has been in your body for quite some time. And we can sort of almost go like, okay, thank you for all the lessons you've taught me, and etc. Like that kind of thing, because we need to respect our body as our temple. So it's very, very powerful in that sense as well, because then we can talk about it on an energetic aspect, not only on a physical aspect, because this is sort of a very big theme of what kind of the work that I'm doing, is that we are like a multi-layered cake, the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit, the emotions, all encompassed. And if we can start, and I like to be effective, doing modalities that can address all of these layers in one session, ideally in one treatment time, I think that's how we are able to achieve long-lasting results. And this is where the benefits come in. Because when people work with me, I empower them. I teach them how to look after their bodies. And then, they don't typically come back. They can, for different things, different reasons, or for maintenance, but not ever to the point of why they originally came when they were unwell, right? And becoming empowered, therefore they can help those in their circles as well. And then, slowly we can help the whole world, which is fabulous. But going back to what the treatment's about. So basically how I conduct a session will be, for first timers, I like to see them for 1.5 hours. We'll go through medical consultation and an induction process, which is not commonly done. But part of the work that I like to do is work on the nervous system of people. So if you understand what's happening and you understand what to expect, there's a lot less nervousness or anxiety about what may happen. Whereas if you normally go to someone, they'll just be like, do, and you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on, right? So we'll do, like I said, a consultation. Then I can walk you through about lifestyle changes, some recommendations, some things to think about, some things to avoid, etc. Then we'll go into the induction, where I'll explain the whole process of what all the equipment looks like, what to expect, the process of what's going to happen, a couple of techniques that I'm going to incorporate, such as abdominal massage, pushing on certain places on the feet, even on the hands, to encourage liver detoxification, which is traditional Chinese medicine techniques. There'll be another technique about increasing water levels in the abdomen, so we can actually go up the whole colon rather than just a certain part of it, because with the colonic treatment, you can actually clean out the whole colon, not necessarily in the first attempt, but traditionally with a couple of sessions, when we flush out all of like the feces, the buildup, gas, we can get you to a point where we can do a whole colon flush and even trigger the small intestine to release any excess undigested food through into the large intestine, and we can flush that out as well. So we'll just call that like an ICV flush, or ileocecal valve flush. And other interesting benefits is this is going to increase your posture. A lot of people have bad posture from work, tension in the muscles, because muscles are so dehydrated, then they're very tight, but then we can help loosen up the body. And that will effectively create cascading benefits as well. How the treatment will look like, it depends. You can do an hour, you can do 1.5 hours. That might encompass something called an enema as well, or just an extended session if you have a lot of buildup, a lot of blockages, right? Everyone is different. And this will also help with emotions and anxiety, because according to traditional Chinese medicine, the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, which is all the things that we're dealing with, that the body's digesting, is dealing with those emotions. So by giving your body better nutrition, we can improve any emotional imbalances, which will then equally link to things very commonly, that commonly comes up as depression. And rather than just resorting to Western allopathic ways of going on antidepressants, antipsychotics, that kind of thing, you might see that actually what you're going through might be a temporary blip rather than a full-blown, mental health condition. But of course, this would have to be diagnosed through, traditional Western medicine, maybe with a psychiatrist, maybe with GP, etc., and take it from there. But then with time, we can also work on improving your mental health. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about mental health. Mental health traditionally will be negatively impacted by bad physical condition. So part of my ethos and philosophy is that I like to work with the body first, then we work into the mental health, the mindset, and then we can work on, the energetic, the spiritual, interchangeable terms, but we will work on the mind, the body, and the soul. But I do see it as a pyramid philosophy, if you will, that we have to go from one to the next, and you can't just go 3 when you have to still do one. It's kind of like a thing, like a video game. You have to pass level 1. You can't go fight the boss before you've completed. You have to complete the levels in order to get to the top, right? So usually, and I'm going to say 99% of the time, usually when people get off the table after a colonic, they're like, wow, I feel so much better. I feel so much lighter. I feel like I have more energy. I feel like I could do a marathon, that kind of thing. They feel much better because your body doesn't understand, obviously up to the first time you've had colonic, what it's like to be in a good condition. And the colonic, I always say, is so profound and so powerful that it resets the body. And until the point that you understand what that's like, you won't be able to understand. And I know that sounds a bit complicated, but it's one of those things you have to try it to really, truly appreciate and understand it. And then I think it's almost like an initiation into a better state of health, because once you do that, there's a bacteria that we should have in the body called Candida, but when it becomes imbalanced, that will lead to sugar cravings, body wanting things. And you'll start to see that after colonic, when you feel internally cleansed, you start to think to yourself, actually, I don't know if I want to eat those bad things anymore. Actually, I do want to look after myself more. And this starts like this trajectory approach of getting your body and your mind into better health. People start to exercise more. People then start to invest in themselves. And it's a beautiful journey because once you start, you don't actually go backwards. I can't actually see, based on the years of practice now, everyone has only improved. There might be throughout the times that maybe you go a little bit backwards. But again, comparing to when you started to where you are now, there's only improvement, which is really, really great. And then you build on that and you build on that. And people's life paths will start to improve, will change, all for the better. Not necessarily drastically, like you change careers or you change partners, but even within your current circumstances, things improve. Because when you start to get a bit of reflection of yourself, your self-worth, your self-value, you'll start to notice your mind changes, your mindset changes, the way you approach things change. And therefore your outside world starts to improve, and then you can become empowered. And I think this is just a really, really good way to build on things, because you're helping yourself and then indirectly helping others. So it's very, very powerful. And this all comes from water. I mean, if you go again to allopathic Western ways compared to what we work with is traditional, ancient ways that have been existing for more than 5,000 years compared to Western medicine, which is only a couple hundred years kind of thing. Old school works. It truly, truly works and doesn't have long-term ramifications. Because a lot of people go to Western medicine, they go, okay, so this is wrong with me. Then they take some stuff, and actually that stuff temporarily masks symptoms, not treats it, masks symptoms. But those things then create new problems. And if you keep going through this vicious cycle, year on year, at a good time, middle age or / older or even a bit younger, you're going to have a lot of things that need to be addressed, right? And better start sooner than later is what I think. And the reason behind that is that I think first time you do something, you don't know what you're expecting. You don't know how your body's going to handle it. You're overthinking. The analytical steps in and it's like, whoa, so much noise that you're never truly present in your experience. And, that's not 100% of the time, but predominantly. Then it's always good to do something again. Repetition is always key. And then you can really valuably say, okay, based on my first time experience to this, actually, I way prefer it, or I really like it. Actually, I misjudged it. Or you can just be like, actually, it's not for me. But in terms of healing and health work, you'll typically find that it is for you. It does really help. And yeah, I highly recommend Colonic. I would say out of all the modalities that I do, and if you know me, there's quite a few that I do, I'd probably say my most favorite to date still would be colonic hydrotherapy, because it's achieving so many health benefits, again, with just water, with high quality filtered water that's going through a double filtration system, stripping out the fluorides, the heavy metals, any toxins, etc. And that's going straight up to the area that needs it, the large intestine. And you'll see a much better quality of life now, and that's also going to guarantee you a much better quality of life when you're older. And it's all about buying you time now as well for the future, because you have to think about projected, like, what if you're going to have grandchildren one day? What if you're going to get married? You know, you have to be there with your partner. You know, what about your family? This kind of thing. And just trying to secure a better quality of life. And definitely Colonic will be able to do this for you. So if you're interested and you have any more questions and you want to know a little bit more, and if I maybe haven't spoken enough or about certain aspects of it, or if I've spoken too much about it, I do have a couple of YouTube videos online being very detailed about the colonic hydrotherapy. Also an interview with a detox coach that I worked with, where I had a couple of ladies ask questions. You can also check that out. Or you can visit my website, www.medicalmindsetcoach.com, just to see on the services page a little bit more. But as well, we are in a technological era, you know, very, very pro, that you can just have a Google and know a little bit more about it. Or alternatively, just contact me and we can have a discovery call to think about if colonic is for you, but probably it is, because everyone has a little bit of a build-up. Everyone's been naughty once in a while. And the big thing is that the body does keep score, right? Just because you had, for example, drugs and alcohol when you were like 20, in your 20s kind of thing, it's still in your body and it still needs to get removed and still needs to be flushed out, because the body does keep score, right? And we just want to really get your body into a great state of homeostasis, balance. As I said, I'm emphasizing better quality of life for yourself now, as well as for your future self. All right, so I'm going to sign off today on that. And that's my little love story with colonic, because it's so profound. It really changed my life. And I really would encourage everyone to give it a go and give it a try. Obviously, bear in mind, if you're not contraindicated for it, that's also on the website. But not a lot of conditions are contraindicated because of the natural state of what the treatment offers. And we'll take it from there. All right. Have a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch up with you soon for the next episode. Bye.